call the meeting to order. Everybody please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. On this side.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Mr. Hartman?
Here.
Mr. Lake?
Here.
Mr. Martray?
Here.
Mr. Martucci?
Here.
Mr. Mongel?
Here.
Mr. Renzi?
Here.
Mrs. Sangston?
Here.
And Mr. Pinda?
Here. Okay, that was a little backwards. So next we'll do, need approval of the previous month's minutes.
So moved.
Motion is second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next, need a motion for the treasurer's report. Motion is second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion for payment of general and federal fund bills. Motion is second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next, need a motion and a second for payment of the cafeteria fund bills.
So moved. Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next, we will have a presentation from Carrie Detweiler, instructor, to introduce student Mackenzie Hiker.
And Mr.
She's not here yet?
Yep. I know. All right.
We could just please go ahead and.
Yeah, we'll get her as soon as we get here. Okay, next we're going to move into the President's report. We're going to move ahead with that due to what we have on there. And I wanted to read a note first. In recognition of the impact the changes to the Collinsville Area School District Health and Safety Plan may have on our students, staff, and community, as in provided by Robert's Rules of Order, we will be adjusting the order of tonight's agenda to permit the President's report. So, and the Health and Safety Plan revised, and it will occur during the regular, during the regular comment. So, the first thing I'm going to do is request approval of the revised Health and Safety Plan. I have a motion for
Yeah, Mr. Penzone, I'll make a motion to make masking optional district-wide to include staff, students, and visitors, and I so move.
a motion and a second. All those in favor?
So we need to open it up for public comment.
Oh, okay. We're going to go ahead and open up that for public comment since we moved to that first with masks. So first person we're going to have to speak, and you'll have 3 minutes, and please adhere to the 3 minutes. We will be timing it, is Bill Shipley. Or Shawley, I'm sorry.
To clarify as well, so this would be public comment related to specifically this board agenda, or this board item, but the motion that's been put before the board with respect to the masking policy. Any other comment would be general public comment under the normal public comment portion of the meeting.
Thank you. Good.
All right. My name is Bill Shawley. I have 2 children in the school district. My son is 4 in pre-K, and my daughter is 7 in first grade. I couldn't find my son's mask in his book bag, and my son said, "Dad, I need my mask. I don't want to get in trouble." The teacher would not let him into the pre-K without his mask. I went back to the car, got a mask, and then she let him into the school. Is that better? So I called the pre-K manager, Mrs. Rockwell, and I asked her why we have to mask healthy children. Her response: children are the most vulnerable to COVID, and we have to have them wear a mask until they can get vaccinated. The elderly and people with underlying issues are the most vulnerable. From Senator Doug Mastriano, there are 1.6 million students in Pennsylvania. 14 students have died from COVID, It's unknown if they had underlying issues. Every death is unfortunate. This means there's a 99.6 survival rate. My daughter, who is 7, is having trouble with reading and math. If her teacher spent more time actually teaching her instead of wasting time on worrying about her mask, maybe she would be learning. Both of my children have asked me, if they get COVID, will they die? I am done with the school district installing fear, stress, and anxiety into my kids. The school is not my children's medical provider. I send them here to get an education. The school board voted in August for parents' choice. The school board is the superintendent's boss. The board works for the parents. I've sent emails and left voice messages for each board member and was ignored by most. Only one responded back, and I want to say thank you to Marcy Saxton, and that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shaw. Next, Michelle Mowry on masks.
Hi, I just really needed clarified whether we were voting for optional or mandated, and you already answered that, so I really don't have anything more to say, except that when you do vote whichever way, can you put it in writing, whether optional or mandated, since this one doesn't have it, it says revision, just so that we have it clear and there aren't any questions about it. Thank you.
Thank you. That's all we have. Mr. Solicitor, then we're good with the vote.
Public comments related to that board.
I think the next one, though, is for health and safety. That's our option number 2, I believe.
This is what I wanted to speak on.
Masking or health and safety?
I thought it was the same thing. What is that?
Masking, okay. You're Amy Rizia.
Yeah, my name is Amy Riquino. I'm a teacher here at the high school. I'm asking you to table this decision tonight on this masking. I think that we're in a situation where we need to just table it for right now. I mean, I've seen school districts go back to masking. I teach in full classrooms, and I don't live in fear, but I do try to live in caution. I'm not coming to you with data or anything like that, but I'm coming to you with personal experience. I suffered with COVID terribly in the spring. Was hospitalized, never returned to school last year, and I still have complications from it. In response to the gentleman who was up here, I'm not an elderly person. I'm in my 30s, and COVID knocked me down. I have other colleagues that came back to work on oxygen. I'm just asking you to please table this from a personal standpoint, from a teaching standpoint as well. I am concerned for my colleagues. I'm also concerned about the quarantining, the contact tracing. It is a terrible situation to teach when you're having to contact trace. You're losing kids for weeks at a time. The first 9 weeks was very rough doing that. When we went back to masking, that improved. I hate to wear these just as much as everybody else. I understand not wanting to wear them. And I'll be glad when we can take them off, just like the rest of you. But I just think just because we can make this decision does not mean that we should. There's a lot of decisions we can make, but I don't think this is the right decision. So I'm asking as the overseers of our district and the protectors and the decision makers to please make the right decision for us, to protect us. For now, this is just for a time. These masks will be gone eventually. We just need to get through it right now. So I'm kindly and respectfully asking you to table this decision.
Thank you. That's all we had for masking. We're good to... Okay, all those in favor signify with aye. Aye. Hold on. Question? Could we reread the motion, please? Mr. Martre would like.
Yes, sir. I make a motion to make masking optional district-wide to include staff, students, and visitors. I so move.
A motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
No.
Roll call.
Mr. Lake?
Yes.
Mr. Martre?
No.
Mr. Martucci?
Yes.
Mr. Mongel?
No.
Mr. Renzi?
No.
Mrs. Sangston?
Yes.
Mr. Kokenauer?
Yes.
Mr. Harshman?
No.
And Mr. Manzella.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay. Motion carried. Well, I want to do, I think we should do the, let's do the, we have a motion for the revision of our health and safety.
You need a motion for that?
We need a motion and a second to revise our health and safety plan.
I so move.
Motion? Second?
So just a.
Any questions on the,
Just a clarification on this one. So under 26B of the President's report, there would be three separate motions that are being addressed under that, three separate items that are addressed under that particular one. This was the first one. The second one is a consideration of how to revise the health and safety plan for building-wide COVID positive notifications to include updated CDC guidelines for individuals monitored for symptoms. So that would be that specific motion.
And Mr. Solicitor and Mr. President, just a point of clarification.
Doctor?
Number 2, the board will be voting on number 2 to continue our practices of notifying staff and community and students and families when there's a COVID positive in our building. If students are asymptomatic, they have no symptoms, we will be following recommendations to not quarantine or isolate. Isolate is obviously for COVID positive. And that building notification will be on a notification receipt. So that's sort of what we're voting on is the building notification. Please monitor your child. Please monitor yourself if you're an employee. If you have no symptoms, then you're asymptomatic and there's no quarantine required. If you have symptoms, we're asking you to obviously respect the health of others and stay home and not send your child to school or not come to work.
Thank you, Dr. Bradley. Any other questions on that?
So I'm making a motion for number 2. Is what you're saying. I don't need to include 1 and 3 or?
No, one was for the math, correct?
Mr. Martre had a question. Yeah, number 1 passed. Number 1 was, and number 2 now we're voting on. And Mr. Martre had a question on who monitors. It would be mom and dad of the child monitors, or the employee themselves, or the guest. So we have guests that come in our buildings, we have employees that come in our buildings, and we have students. If you receive the building notification, we're asking parents to please monitor your child for symptoms. If they're asymptomatic, please do not send your child to school at the risk of making other people sick for any reason, let alone COVID-19.
Any other questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
No.
Roll call?
Mr. Montre? Mr. Martucci?
Yes.
Mr. Mongel?
No.
Mr. Renzi?
No.
Mrs. Sangston? Yes. Mr. Kokenauer?
Yes.
Mr. Harshman?
No.
Mr. Lee?
Yes.
And Mr. Manzella.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Motion carries. Okay, that'll all be updated, is everything correct and on the website, Dr. Bradley?
Correct.
All right, thank you very much. We will now move to, we have number 3. Oh, that's for the MOU, I'm sorry. Do I have a motion for number 3 for the utilization of emergency instructional time per PA Code 520-1 via memorandum of understanding between CSAD and CAEA for 2021-2022 virtual learning days?
So moved.
A motion and a second.
And you're approving, just Mr. Panzella, you're approving the MOU as well. I mean, this is a jointure of our utilization as administrators to call a virtual learning day and the approval of the MOU. They kind of are tied, married together.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. And I just want to thank everybody for that. CAEA, our administration, and our board members for getting this done. It was very important to have this done today, and I thank everybody for coming together and getting this taken care of for the students and everybody involved. Okay, now, let's see if we can revert back to Mrs. Detweiler, who's going to introduce Mackenzie Hiker.
I have a few words for the community while Ms. Detweiler makes her way to the podium. Mackenzie Hector, a junior at the high school and a student in the health occupation classroom at the Career and Technical Center, was working her shift at Walmart when she became aware of a coworker who was on the floor and unresponsive. Mackenzie didn't hesitate to jump in. She checked for a pulse, breathing, and started chest compressions, also known as CPR. Mackenzie's brave actions potentially saved her coworker's life. In this sea of negativity that we've lived in, it's awesome when we have these bright lights of positivity, and there are many, and this is just one of them. And it's my honor, in recognition of her heroic efforts, that Ms. Detweiler will present Mackenzie with a certificate of honor on behalf of the Connellsbury School District and share her own comments on Mackenzie's classroom abilities and her thoughts on Mackenzie. Thank you, Ms. Detweiler. Thank you, Mackenzie. Congratulations.
To say that I'm proud of Mackenzie would be an understatement. Even those of us in the healthcare profession have anxiety about having to perform CPR in public. But a teenager who's never done it before outside the classroom, extremely commendable. Kenzie didn't hesitate to assess her coworker and do what she was trained to do. So congratulations, Kenzie, for recognition that is well deserved.
It's a great job, thank you. I guess we're good to go to athletics and recreation. Okay, we're going to move into athletics and recreation.
Public comments for any other agenda items outside of masking and health and safety. Any other public comments outside of masking and health and safety?
Nothing else. Move.
It's a private human resource issue that you would have to discuss with your provider and with our human resource department. That's not a public nature.
So, yeah, because it is a personnel item, we won't want to discuss that here at the meeting itself. It is on the agenda, so the board would be in a position to vote on that, to approve that or not. Certainly, if there's been a change with respect to that request, we ask that you follow the channel to go through HR to have that request modified subsequently.
Okay, well, I think we'll put it on the first Friday. Do I get work tomorrow?
Well, once again, it's a personal issue. I recommend after this meeting, we can discuss that.
Would it be an emergency to make a motion now, or could we do that or not? What do you mean it's on the agenda? It's on the agenda. So if we don't approve the sabbatical on the agenda, she don't get one, right? There you go. Right. Thank you.
Ms. Skokonek.
Do we have a doctor slip releasing you back to work? The semester ends today. Today's the last day of the semester? Sabbaticals are in semester. And semester, and that was the interpretation of the paperwork. I don't want to get into any more specifics on personnel matters though, but we don't have a doctor slip releasing you at this time.
recommend not discussing personnel items in the board meeting. We can reconvene the executive session if that prerogative of the board, so.
You can adjourn and go into executive session.
A motion to adjourn into executive session for 10 minutes.
So moved.
A second. All those in favor? Opposed? We'll be back in 10 minutes.
Thank you.
No, I can go out and do what it is.
my boy, because my whole thing, I said, what would you do if the teacher's trying to give you a shot? He said, shot. I said, don't ever let him give you anything. I don't know.
No, I don't either. We've had that one.
Let's not go there with that because I'm all bummed up. Remember? I won't give you I won't give you
I asked my life insurance policy, I said, if I would have to vaccine from one to three, I said, and they said, why wouldn't I? I said, because I was told it was considered experimental. And that's, so a couple weeks later, I called back, and he said, well, you're covered through your tax policy. If you started a new policy, for the first 2 years, we could decline you for everything. So that's what's going to be through that newer policy. But I said, and I tell people that have to get it, their students, get a business first and have to put it in, there's nothing wrong with it. That's not good argument. The wife has to say no to the things that's not. His wife said she that was the same, that was the night. And when they didn't work, that's how they got to work at the hospital. I know sick. That's how it was.
My son was those things like
We have a really fun new one working on it. We're working on double shifts every couple of weeks.
Okay, we are going to go to athletics and recreation, Mr. Renzi.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Panzella. Fall supplements, request approval of the 2022-2023 fall supplemental athletic contracts, pending solicitor reviews as attached. And I so move.
Motion and a second. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
Award spring bids, request approval to award bids for spring sports supplies and equipment to the lowest responsible bidder meeting specifications. And I so move.
Motion and a second. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
Request approval for Richard Evans, Athletic Director, to attend the Pennsylvania State Athletic Directors Association 54th Annual Conference, Hershey, PA, Tuesday through Friday, March 15th through March 18th, 2022, at no additional cost to the district in accordance with the district travel policy. And I so move.
Motion is second. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
10D, request approval to accept the resignation of William Matsko, head football coach, effective immediately. And I so move.
Second.
Motion is second. Question?
Tim, we're legally allowed to put this on tonight?
So this would fall under one of the exceptions to that new Sunshine Act legislation, where it's not entering into a contract, there's no cost to the district, and this was brought to the district's attention at least within 24 hours prior to the meeting. So the board is okay to adopt this. It does need to be reflected on a revised agenda to be posted within 24 hours of the closing of the meeting.
Thank you.
Do we need to have any public comment on that, Tim?
Do you need public comment?
Yes, if it's on the agenda already. Well, is it on the?
It was not on the work session. It was not on until we received it at 2 p.m.
Okay, so open it up for public comment, since it wasn't previously on the agenda earlier today.
Does anyone have any public comment on 10D? Seeing none, we're okay to vote. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
10E, for information only, accept the Collinsville Lions Club 2021 Stadium Report. See attached. 10F, we had an athletic meeting on Thursday, January 13th, 2022. That's all I have. Anything, Mr. Martucci?
No, sir.
Mrs. Saxton?
No.
Mr. Evans? That's all we have, Mr. Pantel.
Thank you, Mr. Renzi. I'd just like to thank the Lions Club for that detailed report. Very good information, and it's nice to see what our clubs and teams get out of that. It's very helpful. Moving on to buildings and grounds, Mr. Layton.
Thank you, Mr. Panzella. Request approval of the following event in the building use request subject to adherence to the district's health and safety plan for all the applicable state and federal laws and orders, including any mandatory or recommended cancellations, rescheduling, or postponement, and on the condition that requesters provide an event or use-specific health and safety plan acceptable to the district. Any rescheduling or postponement shall be the sole discretion of the district, and under such terms and conditions may be set forth by the district. And with no questions or objections, I'd like that 5 of them be put on, and I so move. 1 through 5.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
11B is donation to the Collinsville Area School District no longer in use vehicles, 1999 Jeep Cherokee and a 2003 Dodge Ram 2500 to the Career and Technical Center for use of the welding and auto mechanics classes, and I so move.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
11C is request approval of the following addition to the substitute custodial list for the 21-22 school year. Jason Greenable, and I so move.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
11D is hot water tanks. Request approval to purchase and install 2 hot water tanks at Dunbar Township Elementary School from John Hall Incorporated, Ligonier, PA, at a cost of $40,725 per co-stars, 143428, to be paid from the Capital Reserve Fund, and I so move.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Mr. Kokenar, do you have anything to add? Mr. Martucci?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Kirsch? That's all we have, Mr. Panzella. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Layton. I know I mentioned it last night, but I just wanted to also mention again tonight. I want to thank,
Denzel, I have one question.
okay, go ahead, Mr. Marshall.
Mr. Lake, did you know from October, we had some things on the agenda that didn't go through the ceiling tile, or any motion, or any movement on that with the committee at this point? That was on the ceiling tile, what didn't pass in our stadium paint. Was there any discussion going on about that? Those are things that were left undone back in October.
Yeah, the biggest thing about the ceiling tile is we discussed it, and I'm not willing to put a ceiling tile until we find out if the roof's going to leak on it. I think we had a roof leak the other day. I'm not going to put 20,000 ceiling tile and have them all leaked on until I make sure the roof's not going to leak. That's one of the questions on the ceiling tile. And we're still researching the other stuff too. And as soon as we, hopefully the weather breaks, we can get on some more.
Thank you. As I was going to say, I want to thank Mr. Kirsch and the maintenance and custodial staff for Monday. They did a fantastic job making sure that the schools were prepared for Tuesday for school, and we didn't miss a beat. So thank you guys once again.
Yeah, I agree with Mr. Panzella. They did a heck of a job getting all these. We had a heck of a snowstorm, and they did a great job. Custodians, maintenance staff, and everybody involved did a great job. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to Carnegie Free Library, Mr. Mongeau.
Yeah, we have no motion for this meeting. We do have a regular meeting tomorrow at the library at 6 o'clock. Mr. Bartray, do you have anything to add?
No, nothing, thank you.
That's all we have, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mongeau. Moving to Collinsville Area Career and Technical Center. I'm going to let Mr. Lake.
Thank you, Mr. Panzella. We have an articulation agreement. Request approval of the pathway agreement between the Pittsburgh College of Technology and the Collinsville Area Career and Technical Center effective January the 20th, 2022, and I so move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Request approval to accept a monetary donation of $50 for the CACTC cosmetology class from the Collinsville Moose, and I so move.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
13C's travel, request approval of Justin Striner, instructor, to attend the planning meeting for the heavy equipment competition, Shippensburg, PA, February the 2nd, 2022, at an approximate cost of $340 for one substitute and travel to be paid from the office of the principal. V 1382 staff requested, and I so move.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Mr. Kokenar, do you have anything to add? Mrs. Sangston.
Nothing, thank you.
Mr. James.
Nothing else. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Panzella. That's all we have.
Thank you, Mr. Lake. And I'd just like to add, I had saw where the skills competition we had hosted, maybe we mentioned this, but what a great job the CTC did and all the kids that advanced. We had a great number of kids that advanced. It was nice to see in the paper, and it just shows the CTC is doing a great job. Thank you.
Mr. President, if I may.
Yes.
I talked with CTC Chairman, Mr. Kokenar here earlier, it was yesterday, and he had asked me the same thing, it was an article in the paper. We had a motion we're going to bring in February to the board about doing the Hershey competition, safety skills competition, for your approval. And I talked a little Tom and wrote a little bit more in detail about our regional skills competition we had at CTC in December in our place. So that will be in February.
Fantastic. Thank you, and make sure you thank Dr. Little. You guys did a fantastic job, and I heard a lot of great things. Thank you. Moving on to curriculum, Mr. Harshman.
Thank you, Mr. Panzella. Item 14A, Collinsville Area Middle School Course Description. Request approval of the middle school course description for the 2022-2023 school year, and I so move. Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
14B, travel, in accordance with policy number 431. Request approval of the following professional employees' travel. Jenny Becker, teacher, to attend the Math Coach Network 2022 Allegheny Intermediate Unit, January 21st and March 4th, 2022, at a cost of $179.51 for 2 half-day subs. Staff requested. Number 2, Lauren Colson, teacher, to attend the Student Assistance Program, SAP, Winter Thermatic Workshop, St. Vincent College, February 1st, 2022, at an approximate cost of $220 for registration and substitute. Staff requested, and I so move.
The motion and a second on those. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
14C, we had a curriculum committee meeting, January 5th, 2022 at 8 a.m. That's all I have. Mr. Renzi? Mr. Mondell? Nothing, thank you. Dr. Coons?
I do want to address the fact that our kindergarten registration dates are posted on the website. They will be February 28th through March 3rd. Appointments need to be made at each individual building. So if anyone has any questions, they can feel free to call the buildings.
That's all we have, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Harshman. Moving to cyber, Mr. Martre.
Thank you, Mr. Penzel. We have nothing additional other than in December. We met with the union representatives on the MOU and discussed any changes, and there was nothing there, so there's nothing further on that. Mr. Kokenar, anything additional? Mr. Mongiel?
Nothing, thank you.
Mr. Dr. Stern? Not here. Mr. Gross?
Nothing, thank you.
Okay, that's all we have.
Thank you, Mr. Martre. Moving to federal programs, Mr. Mongiel.
Thank you. Item 16A, request the approval to purchase a 2-year license for the Delta Math Integral at a cost of $4,800 to be paid from ESSA funds, and I so move.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
That's all the motions. We did have a committee meeting on January the 5th, 2022. And that's all we have.
Thank you, Mr. Mongiel. Moving to finance, Mr. Renzi.
Thank you, Mr. Penzola. 17A, request approval of the account requisitions from November 23rd, 2021 through January 14th, 2022, which were already processed due to time constraints as per December 1st, 2021, the board approved. I so move.
Motion and a second. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
17A, request approval of the attached district credit card orders from November 23rd, 2021 through January 14th, 2022, which were already processed in time constraints as per December 1st, 2021, board approved. I so move.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
17C, request approval of the accelerated budget opt-out resolution certifying tax rate within inflation index and no need to comply with Act 1 accelerated budget procedures for the 2022-2023 school year as proposed. And I so move.
Motion and a second. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
17B,
No.
Oh, roll call. Sorry, hold on. Thank you.
Mr. Martucci? Mr. Mongiel?
Yes.
Mr. Renzi?
yes.
Mrs. Sangston?
Yes.
Mr. Kokenauer?
Yes.
Mr. Harshman?
Yes.
Mr. Lee?
Yes.
Mr. Martre?
No.
And Mr. Panzella?
Yes.
The reason to vote no on this is because the index is 4.9%, inflation rate's up to 7%, so I don't know which one it is, so I need more information on that. Thank you.
Okay, 17D, request approval from Marlene Grinnell and Sheree Rousen to attend the 67th Annual PASBO Conference, Hershey, PA, March 8th through March 11th, 2022, at an approximate cost of $2,300 for registration, lodging, bills, and travel as budgeted. To be paid from the business office staff development line item. I so move.
Motion is second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
We have a Finance Committee meeting on January 14th, 2022 at 1:30 p.m. That's all I have.
Nothing, thank you.
Anything you want to add, Mr. Lake?
Nothing, thank you.
Mr. Harshman?
Nothing, thank you.
Mrs. Grinnell? That's all I have, Mr. Panzel. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Renzi. I just want to thank, I think it worked out well. I really didn't get to ask Mrs. Grinnell, but we kind of put everything in there and got everything prepaid kind of before the board. Seemed to work pretty well this past month, the way we did it. Good. I want to thank the board and business office and the secretaries and everything for the diligence that they did to make sure that worked out so that we had everything in line. So thank you. Next, food service, Mrs. Sangston.
Thank you, Mr. Pinzella. Request approval to eliminate a 4-hour position at the senior high. And I so move.
Motion is second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Request approval to change a 4-hour position to a 5-hour position at the senior high school. And I so move.
Motion is second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Request approval of the following addition to the cafeteria substitute list for the 21-22 school year. Marky Aller. I so move.
Second.
Motion is second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
We also had a committee meeting on January 10th at 6:30. That's all I have. Mr. Kokenar? Mr. Martre?
Nothing, thank you.
That's all we have.
Thank you, Mrs. Sangston. Moving to personnel and review and liaison, Mr. Layton.
Thank you, Mr. Panzella. Request approval of the settlement agreement of case number 2, 2021, and I so move.
Second.
Motion is second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
19B, request approval of the settlement agreement of case number 3, 2021, and I so move.
Motion is second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Request approval for Lynn Lee Mashali, teacher, to take a sabbatical leave of absence for the second semester of the 21-22 school year, and I so move.
Second.
Motion is second. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
Request approval for Michelle Mowry, teacher, to take a sabbatical leave of absence for the second semester of the 21-22 school year, and I so move.
Motion is second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Roll call.
Mr. Panzella?
Yes.
Mr. Renzi? Mrs. Sangston?
No.
Mr. Kokenauer? Mr. Harshman?
Yes.
Mr. Lee?
I'm going to say yes, too. I'd really like to say no, but yes.
Mr. Martre?
Yes.
Mr. Martucci?
Yes.
Mr. Mongeau?
Yes.
And Mr. Panzella?
Yes again.
Oh, sorry.
Somebody about the doctors.
19E.
Motion carries.
Approved. 19E is request approval for Marlene Brunel, administrator, to take intermittent unpaid leave of absence during the 21-22 school year, not to exceed 60 days. I so move.
Second.
Motion is second. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Layton, I'm going to interrupt you 1 second. Mrs. Mowry, you can contact Human Resources, correct, Amy? And you can let them, so you know what to do. Or you can contact Mr. Witt. if you want. That's fine. You can contact Mr. Witt. Thank you. 19F, please. Sorry, Mr. Lee.
Okay. Request approval for Robert LaPre, teacher, to take an intermittent unpaid leave of absence during the 21-22 school year, not to exceed 60 days, and I so move.
Motion is second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Request approval for Jennifer Hahn, teacher, to take an intermittent unpaid leave of unpaid days, for the remainder of the 21-22 school year, and I so move.
Motion is second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
19H is request approval for Molly Gibson, teacher, to take an unpaid leave of absence for the second semester of the 21-22 school year, and I so move.
We have a motion is second. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
19J is request approval for Megan Slyhoff, teacher, to take an unpaid leave of absence for the second semester of the 21-22 school year, and I so move.
We have a motion is second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
19J is request approval to hire Jamie Mitchell as a long-term substitute for STEM's K-6 for the second semester of the 21-22 school year, and I so move.
Second.
Motion is second. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
Request approval for Trudy Baker, aide, to take intermittent unpaid days of the remainder of the 21-22 school year, and I so move.
Motion is second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
19L is request approval of Sonia Bentley, aide, to take leave of absence for the remainder of the 21-22 school year, and I so move.
Motion is second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Next one is request approval for Crystal Schroyer, aide, to take intermittent unpaid days for the remainder of the 21-22 school year, and I so move.
Motion is second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Request approval for Michelle Porter, aide, to take a leave of absence beginning January 3rd, 2022 until on or about February the 22nd, 2022, and I so move.
Motion is second. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
19O is request approval of the following addition to the sport professional substitute list for the 21-22 school year. Kara Grinnell, and I so move.
Second.
Motion is second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
19P is request approval of the following additions to the professional substitute list for the 21-22 school year. Caitlin Smith, prospective educator. Dylan Peterson, emergency. Joy Hertline, music. Emily Pleva, emergency. And Dean Peterson, emergency. And I so move.
Second.
Motion is second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
19Q is request approval to accept the retirement of Brock Richter, maintenance, effective March 25th, 2022, and I so move.
Motion is second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
19R is request approval to accept the retirement of Carl Butchko, instructor, effective the end of the 21-22 school year, and I so move.
Second.
Motion is second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
19S is request approval for Danny Balls as substitute co-director of buildings and grounds as needed on a voluntary basis at no cost to the district for the remainder or as needed basis for the 21-22 school year, and I so move.
Second.
Motion is second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
19, I don't know where I'm at, P, I think it's a request approval of the change of the title Assistant to the Superintendent for Finance and Operations to Business Manager, effective immediately, and I so move.
Motion is second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion. Roll call.
Mr. Renzi? Mrs. Sangston?
Yes.
Mr. Kokenauer?
Yes.
Mr. Parchman?
Yes.
Mr. Lake?
Yes.
Mr. Martre?
No.
Mr. Martucci?
Yes.
Mr. Mongeau? And Mr. Painter?
Yes.
Mr. President, the reason I'm voting no on this, I just received that last evening, the organizational chart, and I'd like to have a more reasonable time to look at these things. That's why I'm voting no on this at this point.
And God forbid you get something on the last minute, right? That's what I thought. You want to do that. They never have done it before.
I'll make sure that they, should have received it the week before, Mr. Martre. She said you should have received it the week before.
Electronic copy was a week before, the hard copy was more recent.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Request approval to change the title of Human Resources Generalist to Director of Human Resources effective immediately. And I so move.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Roll call.
Mrs. Saxton? Yes. Mr. Kokenauer? Yes. Mr. Marshall?
Yes.
Mr. Lake?
Yes.
Mr. Martre?
No.
Mr. Martucci?
Yes.
Mr. Montiel?
No.
Mr. Renzi?
Yes.
And Mr. Pansel?
Yes, I'd just like to point of order, Mr. Solicitor.
So with respect to that motion, to clarify, board member Kokenauer's vote is not inappropriate. So it's appropriate to vote for that because that is only a title change. It does not change any duties or compensation associated with that. I would advise with respect to the subsequent motion to change the organizational chart that Mr. Kokenauer abstained from that. That does change.
Okay, thank you.
We okay? Like what you're not. Okay. Request approval to appoint Sherry Routson as an interim business manager in the absence of the business manager with a per diem stipend of $100 effective as needed for the remainder of the 21-22 school year, and I so move.
Second.
A motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Request approval to hire Jennifer Zimmerman as a personal student aide effective December the 1st, 2021, and I so move.
Motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Request approval to hire Caitlin Kessler as a personal student aide effective January the 18th, 2022, and I so move.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Request approval to hire Lori Dropick as a long-term substitute for the Springfield Clifford M. Fritz Elementary for the second semester of the 21-22 school year, and I so move.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
Request approval to hire Emmeline Pleva as a long-term substitute music teacher for the second semester of the 21-22 school year, and I so move.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Informational purpose, we had a committee meeting was held on January 10th, 2022 at 1 p.m. Mr. Renzi, you have anything else? Mr. Harshman?
Nothing, thank you.
Mrs. Kokenauer? Dr. Bradley?
Yes, Mr. Lake, thank you. I just wanted to thank CAEA as far as the liaison side and the CAA leadership for working with the district to make sure virtual student days were possible. It allows us to maintain our originally passed board calendar that permits parents to schedule ahead such items as doctor's appointments, and it allows us to avoid the regression associated with unplanned school closures. So I thank them for looking out for the benefit of our students. Thank you.
And that's all we have, Mr. Manzella. Thank you.
Mr. Pence, I'd like to thank Ralphie Richter and Carl Bushko for years of service to the district. Wish you the best on your retirement.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Lake. Not much going on. You didn't have much to do. Moving on to policy and legislative. Mr. Martre.
Thank you, Mr. Panzel. First reading for the policy revisions. Request approval of the first reading of the following revised policies. Policy 317, conduct and disciplinary procedures. 417, conduct disciplinary procedures. 517, conduct disciplinary procedures. 348.1, bullying, cyberbullying, and harassment. 448.1, bullying, sobering. bullying and harassment, and 548.1, bullying and cyberbullying and harassment. And I so move.
Motion and a second. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
Our committee meeting was on January 5th at 10 a.m. Mr. Mongelli, anything additional?
Nothing, thank you.
Mr. Hartman?
Nothing, thank you.
Mr. Bradley?
Yes, Mr. Martre, I just want to encourage our community. Recent legislation is going through the House and the Senate on changing regulations for what we can accept as a professional substitute teacher. Those requirements are changing by the month, and we encourage anyone to contact the district that is thinking about subbing. We can use subs, and we're always looking for good people that can impact the lives of our students. So you may have a dormant certificate, you may have a retired certificate, you may have a bachelor's degree in another field and looking to go into the field of education, and we encourage you to at least explore the options of being a substitute teacher for us. We're a great place to work, and we have some great students that you'd be able to impact. Thank you.
Is that all, Mr. Martre?
Yes, that's it.
Thank you, Mr. Martre. Moving to safety and security, Mr. Martucci.
Thank you, Mr. Panzella. I have no agenda items at this time. Mr. Renzi, Mr. Covenant. That's all we have, Mr. Panzella. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Martucci. I'm not sure if this is, I'm going to throw it under there anyway. I just wanted to commend CAMS for the incident we had last month. They did a fantastic job. I'm sure everybody saw in the news with the incident that we had. Was handled very well. I want to commend them on what they did and how it was handled, and it was exemplary. And I saw the news put it out there for everybody, and hopefully made a lot of other school districts aware and on their toes of what could happen. So I want to thank everybody at CAMS. Moving on to special education, Mr. Martucci.
Thank you, Mr. Panzella. There was a committee meeting held January 13th, 2022 at 6 p.m. That's all we have. Mr. Lake.
Nothing, thank you.
Mrs. Sangston.
None, thank you.
Mr. D'Amico. That's all, Mr. Panzella. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Martucci. Moving on to student services, Mrs. Sangston.
Thank you, Mr. Panzella. Request approval of the following additions for the 21-22 Connellsville High School musical production staff for 4 performances. Not to exceed the budget of $50,000, condition upon obtaining necessary performance licensing, and to authorize such persons to serve in an uncompensated volunteer capacity until such necessary performance licensing is obtained. Upon the ability to hold, receive, and conduct extracurricular activities under state orders, such agreement and appointments to be subject to early termination based on subsequent state orders. Stipend shall be prorated based on work performed. Professional orchestra musician Marshall Brady, $625. Professional orchestra musician Dakota Cook, $625. Professional orchestra musician Haley Daly, $625. Professional orchestra musician Regan Daly, $625. Professional orchestra musician Carrie Detweiler, $625. Professional orchestra musician Nina Edgar, $625. Professional orchestra musician Sean Harris, $625. Professional orchestra musician Chris Warnack, $625. Professional orchestra musician Dane Schultz, $625. Professional orchestra musician Dawn Stoner, $625. And I said that.
Motion and question?
Yeah, more of a comment than anything. And I just wanted to, anybody read the Courier today, and somebody that's been around the musicals, been here when it was going on 50 years ago. A teacher passed away, Mr. Wetzel, and anybody was involved with musicals, all the hours that the gentleman volunteered and time when they used to go around sets. If anybody's been around him, he's going to be sorely missed. And just remember him in thoughts and prayers. He really helped out that music. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Lake. So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Request for Central Susquehanna Intermediate Union Center for Safe School and Communities to conduct on behavioral health climate assessment and written report for Connellsville Area Middle School at a total cost not to exceed $1,700 paid for through ARP users. And I so move.
Motion is second. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
Request approval of 2122 ELL, which is our English language learners participation form for instruction hours at an estimated cost of $73,739. And I so move.
Motion is second. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
Request an agreement between Redstone Rehabilitation Services and the Connellsville Area School District to provide physical and occupational therapy to qualified school-age students for the 22-23 and 23-24 school year. And I so move.
Motion is second. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
Request an agreement between Ignite Education Solutions and the Connellsville Area School District to provide speech and language services from January 20th, 22 until the end of 21-22 school year. And I so move.
Motion is second. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
Travel in accordance with policy 121, number 1 through 8 as presented. And I so move.
Second.
Motion is second. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
Request approval of Armstrong musical sponsorship in the amount of $2,500 and additional Armstrong programming and advertising estimated value at $10,700 in support of Matilda and the Connellsville Area High School Musical Club. And I so move.
Motion is second. All those in favor? Motion carries.
We had a committee meeting on January 13th at 6:45. That's all I have. Mr. Harshman?
I have nothing, thank you.
Mr. Montiel?
Nothing, thank you.
Mr. D'Amica? That's all we got, Mr. Gonzalez. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Sangston. Just want to thank that committee. Saw last month they did their due diligence, got us some good services in there and saved the district some money. So I want to mention that and thank the committee for that. Moving on to technology, Mr. Harshman.
Thank you, Mr. Panzella. Travel in accordance with policy number 431. Request approval of the following employee travel. Laura Lambie, Ashley McLaughlin, staff to attend the PDE Data Summit 2022, Hershey, PA, March 20th and March 23rd, 2022, at an approximate cost of $2,425 for registration, lodging, meals, and travel as budgeted. Supervisor requested, and I so move.
Second.
Motion is second. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
24B, addition to the substitute list. Request approval of the following addition to the technology substitute list for the 2021-2022 school year. Dominic Hollery, and I so move.
Motion is second. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
We had a technology committee meeting on January 5th, 2022 at 9 a.m. That's all I have. Mr. Martucci. Yes, sir. Mr. Martray. Mr. Gomes.
Nothing, thank you.
That's all we have, Mr. Panzella. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Harshman. Moving to transportation, Mr. Lake.
Thank you, Mr. Panzell. Mr. Kokenair, do you have anything? Mr. Renzi? Nothing. I don't think Mr. Evans is still with the rest of the match. And we have nothing to report, Mr. Panzell. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lake. Moving to the President's report, we have 26A left. Request approval of the revised organizational chart. I so move. A motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No. Roll call.
Mr. Kopenauer?
Not yet.
Mr. Harshman?
Yes.
Mr. Lake?
Yes.
Mr. Martray?
No.
covered everything else under President's reports. Public comment for non-agenda items. Mrs. Mowry, do you still? Thank you.
Thank you for passing mask optional, by the way. Good job on that. Myself and many others are very concerned about the leadership in this district. In the beginning of September, Mr. Bradley superseded the board's masking policy and created his own policy by adopting the Department of Health's masking mandate. He did this on his own, without a public board meeting, without public comment, and without a board vote. He broke laws in the Public School Code of 1949, which gives policy making to the elected school board members. It is illegal for Mr. Bradley to make policies, and it is illegal for this board to allow Mr. Bradley to make policies. In addition to breaking laws in the Public School Code of 1949, Mr. Bradley also broke the law in regards to the Sunshine Act. This board did nothing to stop Mr. Bradley from enforcing his illegal policy. The board finally had a public meeting at the end of September to vote on the masking policy. The board voted to adopt the illegal masking mandate from the Acting Secretary of Health. As you know, the Common Court and PA Supreme Court not only decided that the Acting Secretary of Health mask mandate was illegal, but they included the phrase void ab initio, sorry if I'm saying that wrong, which means the mandate was illegal and invalid from the very beginning. This deems it as it never even existed. Accordingly, our district was supposed to return to the masking policy in place before the district adopted the state illegal mandate. However, Mr. Bradley's response to this was to once again supersede this board's policy and create his own mandating masks. Once again, his actions are illegal. Once again, he broke the Public School Code in 1949. Once again, he broke the Sunshine Act. Twice, Mr. Bradley did exactly what Acting Secretary of Health Allison Bean did. He made policy without the authority to do so. And once again, this board did absolutely nothing about it. Allison Bean, by the way, no longer has her position, and she only did it once. Mr. Bradley stated that no religious exemption would be considered. This is illegal. It goes against state and federal laws. You have to at least consider the religious exemptions. This board did absolutely nothing about it. Mr. Bradley denied at least 2 staff members to a medical exception, even with the note from their doctors from the mask. Once again, breaking rules, breaking a policy this board approved, and once again, this board did nothing about it. All of this has happened in just a few short months. We know there have been many other issues with Mr. Bradley regarding rules, regulations, policy, and or laws in the last few years that he's been our superintendent.
1 minute left.
Thank you. How many issues have occurred that we don't know about? I'm asking this board to take a real hard look at the man you hired as the leader of our district. Do any of you deny that Mr. Bradley broke these laws, regulations, rules, policies? Do you think it's appropriate to have a person that repeatedly breaks these laws, rules, regulations, and policy as the leader of this district? I know I do. Many others don't either. You have legal obligation to do something about it. In the School Code of 1949, you are held liable for enforcing all your rules and policies. Where was I? You have the authority to hold Mr. Bradley accountable for his actions, and you have the power to replace Mr. Bradley.
20 seconds.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's all we have for public comment for non-agenda items. Assistant to the superintendent, anything? No. Dr. Bradley.
Thank you, President Manzella. I'm fortunate to serve as the 10th member of such a dedicated and caring board. As January is designated as Board Recognition Month, on behalf of my fellow administrators, the staff, and the students of our district, I share the following quote from Tom Brokaw and Tom Bertrand. There is a place in America to take a stand, it's public education. It is the underpinning of our cultural and political system. It is the great common ground. Public education, after all, is the engine that moves us as a society toward a common destiny. It is in public education that American dreams begin to take shape. Your board work matters. Remember why you chose board service and be an example to others. Now more than ever, our school districts require stable, dedicated leadership. Thank you for answering the call to board service. Thank you very much. That's all I have.
Thank you, Dr. Brown. Anybody else before we adjourn? Motion to adjourn?